Tesla's early vision. Imagine a mind so powerful, so vivid, that it could build, test, and perfect complex machinery entirely within its own consciousness. No blueprints, no prototypes, just pure, unadulterated thought. This wasn't science fiction. This was the everyday reality for Nikola Tesla. Before he ever picked up a tool, he would see his inventions in his head, not as hazy concepts, but as tangible, functioning devices. He could feel the imbalances, hear the hum of the motor, and see the wear on the parts after months of imaginary operation. This extraordinary ability, a gift he called his visual thinking, was the source of a revolution that would electrify the entire planet. His story begins not in a sterile laboratory, but amidst the raw, untamed energy of nature itself. Born at the stroke of midnight during a fierce lightning storm in a remote Croatian village, the midwife saw it as a bad omen, declaring him a child of darkness. But his mother, a brilliant inventor of household appliances in her own right, retorted, "No, he will be a child of light." It was a prophecy that would prove astonishingly accurate. From his earliest days, Tesla's intellect was undeniable. He performed complex integral calculus in his head, a feat that left his teachers suspecting him of cheating. He possessed a photographic memory, capable of memorizing entire books, word for word. But it was his fascination with electricity that truly defined him. He was a young boy when he first saw a picture of Niagara Falls and boldly declared to his uncle that one day he would harness its immense power. It was a fantastical dream for a boy in a small European village, but for Tesla, it was an inevitability waiting to be realized. His formal education took him to the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz, where his genius immediately clashed with the established order. The world at that time ran on direct current, or DC, championed by the great Thomas Edison. DC was simple but deeply flawed. It couldn't travel far without losing immense amounts of power, requiring a power station on practically every city block. When Tesla pointed out the inefficiencies of the DC motors to his professor and suggested the possibility of a superior system, he was ridiculed. The professor dedicated an entire lecture to debunking his ideas, calling them a perpetual motion scheme, an impossible fantasy. This public humiliation didn't deter Tesla. It ignited a fire within him. He became obsessed, convinced that the solution was within his grasp. The obsession took a toll. He suffered a complete nervous breakdown, a period of darkness where he gambled, lost his tuition, and dropped out of the university. It seemed his brilliant mind had finally shattered. But even in his lowest moments, the puzzle of a better electrical system churned in his mind. The breakthrough came not in a classroom or a lab, but during a stroll through a city park in Budapest. As he recited a passage from Goethe's Faust while watching the setting sun, the solution struck him with the force of a divine revelation. In a flash of pure insight, he saw it all: a rotating magnetic field, the fundamental principle of alternating current, or AC. He grabbed a stick and drew the diagrams for the motor right there in the sand of the park path. His friend, watching in awe, understood immediately that he was witnessing a moment of historical significance. This wasn't just a new type of motor, it was the key to unlocking a new era for humanity. With this revolutionary concept burning in his mind, Tesla knew he had to go to the one place where such a grand idea could be realized: America. He arrived in New York in 1884 with 4 cents in his pocket, a book of poetry, and a letter of introduction to the one man who dominated the world of electricity, Thomas Edison. The letter, from a former employer, read simply, "My dear Edison, I know 2 great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." Edison, the pragmatic, hands-on inventor, was initially impressed by Tesla's brilliance, but skeptical of his radical ideas about AC. He hired Tesla, assigning him the grueling task of redesigning his inefficient DC dynamos. Edison, a shrewd businessman, casually promised Tesla $50,000, a fortune at the time, if he could significantly improve the designs. Tesla worked tirelessly for months, sleeping only a few hours a night, and eventually delivered a series of brilliant improvements that saved Edison's company a vast sum of money. When Tesla went to collect his promised reward, Edison laughed. "Tesla," he said, "you don't understand our American humor. The $50,000 promise had been a joke." In that moment, the fundamental difference between the two men was laid bare. Edison was a titan of industry, focused on marketable products and profit. Tesla was a visionary, driven by the pursuit of knowledge and the betterment of humanity. Deceived and disrespected, Tesla resigned immediately. The stage was now set for the greatest technological rivalry in history. Tesla, now on his own, was about to unleash his child of light upon the world, and Edison, the master of DC, would do everything in his power to extinguish it. War of Currents. Leaving Edison's workshop was both a liberation and a disaster. Nikola Tesla was now free to pursue his grand vision of alternating current, but he was also broke, unknown, and forced to take a job digging ditches for $2 a day just to survive. The man whose mind held the key to the future was spending his days performing back-breaking manual labor. Yet, even in the dirt, his mind soared. He spoke of his advanced electrical theories to his foreman, who was so impressed that he introduced Tesla to a group of investors. This led to the formation of the Tesla Electric Company. Finally, he had his own laboratory, a sanctuary where his visions could become reality. He quickly developed and patented all the components of his polyphase AC system, the generators, transformers, and the revolutionary AC induction motor. This wasn't just an improvement on Edison's DC, it was a completely different, vastly superior paradigm. Where DC was a short-range brute, AC was an elegant, long-distance champion. It could be stepped up to high voltages to travel hundreds of miles with minimal energy loss, then stepped down to safe levels for homes and factories. It was the system the world was waiting for. His breakthrough caught the attention of George Westinghouse, a brilliant inventor and industrialist who had made his fortune with the railway air brake. Unlike Edison, Westinghouse was a trained engineer who immediately grasped the profound superiority of Tesla's AC system. He bought Tesla's patents, offering him a staggering $1 million in cash and stock, plus a generous royalty of $2.50 for every horsepower of AC electricity sold. Suddenly, Nikola Tesla was a wealthy man, and the war of currents had officially begun. Thomas Edison, with his massive financial empire built entirely on DC technology, saw Tesla's AC as an existential threat. And he decided to fight dirty. Realizing he couldn't win on technical merit, Edison launched one of the most vicious smear campaigns in the history of science. His goal was to convince the public that AC was not just inefficient, but a deadly, terrifying force. He and his associates began staging gruesome public demonstrations. They would take stray dogs and cats, even horses, and electrocute them on stage with high-voltage alternating current to horrify the crowds. They paid schoolboys to capture pets for these grotesque displays. The campaign reached its monstrous peak with the development of the electric chair. Edison's team secretly consulted with the state of New York to promote electrocution by AC as a new, humane form of execution, forever associating the term electrocution with death by electricity. They even coined the term Westinghoused to describe the act of being electrocuted. It was a marketing masterstroke of pure malice. Tesla and Westinghouse fought back by demonstrating the safety of AC. At one event, Tesla himself stood on a stage, allowing thousands of volts of high-frequency AC to course harmlessly through his body, illuminating a light bulb he held in his hand. The ultimate battleground for this war of ideas became the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. It was to be the first all-electric fair in history, a city of light that would showcase the future. General Electric, Edison's new company, submitted a bid to light the fair with DC for over $1 million. Westinghouse, using Tesla's more efficient AC system, dramatically underbid them at less than half the price. They won the contract. The night the fair opened, President Grover Cleveland pressed a button and nearly 100,000 incandescent lamps burst into a brilliant unified glow, bathing the fairgrounds in an unprecedented ocean of light. It was a spectacle of such breathtaking beauty and power that it left the world in awe. It was a decisive, public victory for AC. The war was effectively over. The final triumph came when Westinghouse and Tesla won the contract to build the power plant at Niagara Falls, fulfilling Tesla's childhood dream. For the first time, the immense power of nature was harnessed and transmitted over 20 miles away to the city of Buffalo, New York. The age of AC had arrived. But just as he reached this pinnacle of success, Tesla's gaze shifted to an even more audacious dream, the wireless transmission of not just information, but energy itself. He envisioned a world without wires, where power was broadcast through the air and the earth, available to anyone, anywhere, for free. His financial backer for this grand project, the banking titan J.P. Morgan, was intrigued by the idea of a global wireless communication system. With Morgan's funding, Tesla began construction of the magnificent Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, a colossal 187-foot-tall mushroom-shaped structure designed to be a world broadcasting transmitter. But when Morgan discovered Tesla's true intention was to provide free energy, he was horrified. If anyone can draw on the power, he reportedly asked, where do we put the meter? Fearing a collapse of the global energy market he sought to control, Morgan pulled all funding. The project was dead. The tower, Tesla's greatest dream, was left to rust, a monument to a future that was deemed too radical, too generous for its time. It was eventually dismantled and sold for scrap to pay off his debts. His most revolutionary idea, a gift meant to liberate all of humanity, was torn down because it couldn't be monetized. The war was won, but the visionary had lost his way. Block 3. Legacy and Recognition. The demolition of the Wardenclyffe Tower marked the beginning of a long, slow descent for Nikola Tesla. He had won the war of currents, and his AC system was rapidly becoming the global standard. Yet the man himself began to fade from public view. The immense fortune he had been promised from his AC patents had vanished. During a financial crisis, George Westinghouse had come to him, explaining that the royalty payments were bankrupting his company. In an act of incredible generosity and faith in their shared vision, Tesla tore up the royalty contract, forfeiting what would have been billions of dollars in today's money. He saved Westinghouse Electric, but secured his own financial ruin. For the next 40 years, Tesla lived in a series of New York hotels, his genius increasingly overshadowed by his eccentricities. He became obsessed with cleanliness, communicated with pigeons, claiming to be in love with a specific white one, and held increasingly bizarre press conferences on his birthday to announce his latest unfunded inventions. He spoke of particle beam weapons, which the press sensationalized as a death ray, and concepts for harnessing limitless energy from the cosmos. The world that once hailed him as a magician of science now dismissed him as a madman. He died in 1943, alone and in debt, in room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker. For decades, his name was little more than a footnote in the story of Thomas Edison. History, it seemed, had forgotten him. But a legacy as monumental as Tesla's cannot be buried forever. While his name faded, his ideas quietly and invisibly began to shape the modern world. The technologies that define our lives today are saturated with his genius. Take radio, for instance. Guglielmo Marconi is celebrated as its father, but his early systems used patents and concepts directly by Tesla. Tesla had filed his basic radio patents in 1897, years before Marconi's famous transatlantic broadcast. A bitter patent war ensued, which Marconi initially won, largely due to his powerful financial backing. It was only in 1943, months after Tesla's death, that the U.S. Supreme Court finally overturned Marconi's patent, restoring rightful credit to Tesla's pioneering work. And what about remote control? In 1898, at a packed exhibition in Madison Square Garden, Tesla demonstrated a small, radio-controlled boat. He made it start, stop, turn, and flash its lights, all without any physical connection. The audience was stunned, with some shouting that it was witchcraft, others claiming a tiny monkey was hidden inside piloting it. They couldn't comprehend that they were witnessing the birth of robotics and remote control technology. His influence extends even further. His early 20th century theories on using radio waves to detect distant objects laid the conceptual groundwork for what would later become radar. The fluorescent lights you see in every office, the spark plug in your car's engine, the very principles of cryogenics and robotics all bear the unmistakable fingerprints of Nikola Tesla. And of course, there is his greatest, most ubiquitous contribution. Every single time you plug a device into a wall outlet, you are tapping into the alternating current system that he designed and fought for against unimaginable opposition. The entire electrical grid that powers our civilization, from the massive hydroelectric dams to the humble transformer on your street corner, is a direct fulfillment of his vision. The world quite literally runs on Tesla. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, thanks to the rise of the Internet, his story began to resurface. A new generation, unswayed by the propaganda of the past, rediscovered the forgotten genius. The scientific community officially named the SI unit of magnetic flux density the Tesla in his honor. A certain electric car company adopted his name, rocketing it into the global consciousness. The tragic irony of Nikola Tesla's life is staggering. He was a man who gave humanity the foundations for the modern age, yet he received almost nothing in return during his lifetime. Why was he overlooked? He was a brilliant scientist, but a poor businessman. His visions were often a century ahead of the technology needed to realize them. And most crucially, his most profound dream, abundant, wireless, free energy for all, was a direct threat to the powerful commercial interests that dominated his era. He wasn't just inventing devices, he was imagining a different kind of world, a more connected and equitable future. And while history may have forgotten him for a time, it could not erase his work. He was Nikola Tesla, the man who tamed the lightning, and in doing so, illuminated the entire world.